Hello, welcome back to JankTech. It's my series on Star Wars Unlimited where I talk about alternate formats, twin suns, janky card combos, all that other fun, good, cool stuff that you don't get to do in Premiere Play. Oh my gosh, y'all. Thank you so much for your response on the Pack Wars video. I had a lot of fun making it. I'm really excited to record more stuff with that level of watchability. I'm going to be doing some Twin Suns gameplay stuff coming up soon because I'm really excited to see how all the new Jump to Lightspeed cards end up working out in that format. And as Boba has reminded us, if y'all could please like and subscribe down there, I'd very much appreciate it. And if you want to talk more about Star Wars, we've got the PDX SWU Discord. I'll have a link to that down there where we can talk about Star Wars with all kinds of people that want to talk about Star Wars, whether it's deck techs, whether it's Twin Suns, whether it's local events, whether it's more previews, yada yada. You get the point. It's going to be a good time. So moving on with the show, what do I got for y'all today? Well, today we are doing an 80 card deck tech with some new stuff. This is one specifically involving a really fun combo with these two leaders. Of course, the BFFs from the newer trilogy of Star Wars movies, Poe and Finn. JankTech, the lives and deaths of Poe Dameron. So why is it called that? We'll get into it in just a moment once we see what our leaders do. All right, Poe Dameron, he is one of the coolest leaders of the new set. So as an action, you pay 1, exhaust him. Flip this leader and attach him as an upgrade to a friendly vehicle unit without a pilot on it. And then once Poe is flipped, come on SWUDB, there we go, he becomes an upgrade down here, giving a vehicle +2/+1. And as an action, you can pay 1, attach this upgrade to a friendly vehicle unit without a pilot on it. Use this ability only once each round. So Poe basically becomes a pilot that just jumps on any vehicle that's ready. The extra cool thing about this is that you can attack with a vehicle that you put Poe on, use his ability to pay 1 here, move him to something else, attack again. It's really great. One of the things that we really like about Poe is that not only can he hop around like this, but he also has his own epic action. If you control 5 or more resources, deploy this leader as a unit, meaning you put him on the battlefield as a 4/6 with no other stats. This is like a free deploy. So essentially, if you can get Poe exhausted, if you can attack with him, use them all up on the ship, then you can use, once you have 5 resources, his epic action, bring him out, ready to go as a leader, maybe swing into something, do a bunch of damage. It's great. Poe is very aggro. The lines of play with him are very interesting. I've been working on a Poe green Premier aggro deck that I think is really cool. I might even share a list for it once I get it done. But yeah, Poe is super neat. But when you combine him with Finn, I think he reaches a new level of janky fun. And I know what y'all are thinking. Finn, you're trying to make Finn work. Of course I'm trying to make Finn work. And you know what? I think Jump to Lightspeed is when we're going to see some Finn stuff just really coming out there and doing some work. Okay, so what is Finn's deal? Action, defeat a friendly upgrade on a unit. If you do, give a shield token to that unit. And then on 5 resources, Finn flips over to be a 4/6. On attack, you may defeat a friendly upgrade on a unit. If you do, give a shield token to that unit. So right off the bat, Finn has got basically the same stat line as Poe, comes out on the same turn as a ground unit, and has this ability that might not seem all that useful. But what is so cool about this is the way he interacts with Poe when Poe is an upgrade. So the combo that we are going to be doing in this deck, I just put it right here just to make it super obvious. We want to play ship. We want to stick Poe on it as an upgrade. We want to attack with it. Then we use Finn's ability. We kill Poe to get a shield on that ship. We can put another pilot because there are lots of pilots in this deck. We play a new ship. We stick Poe on that. We keep doing that over and over. It's worth noting that when Poe dies, he will come back to the I'm trying to not call it a command zone. He'll come back to that leader area exhausted, like always. So you can't use his action ability to put him on another ship after he dies. But with the right timing, you can use Poe to buff things. And then once there's no more ways that you can jump him around on ships, then you can use Finn, get that shield, make your ship more survivable, and then crew it with somebody else. I think it is such a fun, neat combo. We are running these two best friends with the Resistance headquarters, not just because thematically it's fun, but because green unlocks some super cool stuff in this deck. So before I do all the talking about the cards, I wanted to let y'all know there is a budget version coming after this where I took out some of the most expensive cards. We're still early in the set, so being that the meta hasn't really shaped up at this point, we're not going to know what prices are for anything. Like, I usually give the game like a month or so before we start to really see what costs what. But just to be on the safe side, I took out what seemed to be some of the spendier cards in here. Unfortunately, the collections tab is not working on swupdx right now, so I can't give y'all exact numbers on what the stuff costs, but considering it's done by one person in his spare time, I'm really happy for all the features that it has, and at some point, I'm sure it'll come back. But for the time being, just know I've got some stuff if you're like, well, I don't have all those fancy cards. No problem. Okay, let's get on with it. Oh my gosh, I am so pumped. So we got 29 ground units. We've got 24 space units. It's kind of weird. I was saying, yes, there's a lot of ships in here, but who's going to be on those ships? Who's going to fly it, kid? So we're going to have a lot of, you bet I can. I'm not such a bad pilot myself in this deck. Okay, so first card, we got the Astromech Pilot. You can either play it as a 1/3 with nothing else, or you can pay 2, stick it on as a pilot, and heal 2 damage from a unit and give whatever it's on +1/+3. So being that it doesn't care what unit gets healed, you can use this as a bargaining chip in this format, which is very cool. You can play it, heal it, swing once, and then probably not feel too bad about killing it with Finn to give a shield to the thing that it's on. I like this in this deck a lot, and especially because it's cheap either way, it gives you some flexibility. I'm going to be using that phrase a lot. So, buckle up and let's enjoy it. Bail Organa, you got to run Bail in a Finn deck. He's a 1/2. Yeah, he's got a little butt. First mention of butts. There we go. He's got a little butt. However, as an action, you can exhaust him to give an experience token to another friendly unit. Anytime you can get an upgrade on anything for free, it makes Finn better. Finn wants you to get free XP from other guys, and we're going to be seeing a lot of that in this deck. Anything that I can use to get free XP on stuff, I'm going to go for it. So Bail, he's probably going to get taken out early because no one's going to want us handing out either experience or potential shields to stuff. But as long as we can get a few uses out of him, I think he's totally worth it. Another one that's going to die, like Maz. Come on, Maz always gets targeted. But again, we've got a bunch of Sentinels in here. We want to play Maz, maybe not on the first opportunity. Maybe we want to get our board somewhat in a state where Maz might not look like the biggest threat. In any case, what does she do? She's a 1/1 for 1. When you play another unit, give an experience token to this unit. She can get big and out of hand if you don't keep her in check. And I think what's cool about this is obviously she keeps getting experience stacked on her. We can turn that into a shield with Finn to make her more survivable. And then she can just run amok on the ground. I think Maz is awesome, and she's just so cute in this picture. Come on. Okay, we got Nien Num. You can either play him as a 1/2 that gets +1/+0 for each other friendly pilot unit and upgrade. And yes, that does include Poe when Poe is either deployed as a ground unit or attached as a pilot upgrade. So he works really well with Poe in this deck. Or piloting, you can stick him for 1 onto a vehicle, and the attached unit gets +1/+0 for each other friendly pilot unit and upgrade. And like I said, Poe is probably going to be out. So this is like a pretty good deal for how much you pay for him regardless. I like the flexibility that you get with Nien Num. And if I'm saying that wrong, please correct me with I guess, a phonetic comment. This is one of the coolest units, I think, in the set. I like that it comes in the spotlight decks. So I feel like it's one of those rare cards that's going to be cheap. No matter what. Like, if you're going to run a budget deck, you can probably still afford to get this guy in there, which is why I kept him in. Academy Graduate, it's a pilot. It's either a 1/2 Sentinel on the ground, or for the same price as playing it as a unit, you can play it as a pilot, giving whatever it goes on to Sentinel. So this is good, giving you some options, like where do you need to protect stuff? Maybe you brought out Maz and you're like, okay, we got to protect Maz. We're going to get the Academy Graduate out, which not only keeps people from attacking Maz, but it also gives her an experience and starts that vicious cycle. It's going to be great. Okay, we got Frisk, Vanguard, Loudmouth. I love this. Like we get a cool Trandoshan pilot. Heck yeah. So he's either a 3/2 for 2 with nothing, or he's a pilot for 2. When played as an upgrade, you may defeat an upgrade that costs 2 or less. This is good if other people are playing low-cost pilots. It's good if someone puts a shield or experience on something that you just don't want to have to deal with. Frisk can take care of that. And the great thing about these low-cost pilots, like Frisk, like the Academy Graduate, like the Astromech pilot, you use them a little bit and then you toss them. You're saying, Finn says, we just attacked with you. You're exhausted. Let's just kill the pilot. We'll give you a shield and it'll be great. Harrison Dula. The new Harrison Dula unit, again, I think is very, very flexible. I like that you can bring her out for 2, either as a pilot or stick her on the ground. Either way, she's a 2/3 with Restore 1, or she's a +2/+3 on a vehicle and gives that Restore 1. She's just great. It's one of those things where it feels good to play her no matter where you're putting her. And considering we've got a few other Spectre things in this deck, there is a little bit of Spectre synergy. So if you can get a bunch of them out, that'll really be really good for you in the long run here. Ketsu Onyo, Old Friend. Ketsu Onyo is a 3/2 Saboteur for 2. When she deals combat damage to a base, you may defeat an upgrade that costs 2 or less. Again, we get rid of other cheap pilots on other people's units. We get rid of experience. We get rid of shields. And she bypasses Sentinels, which, again, I say this in every single one of these Twin Suns videos. Sentinels are so important in Twin Suns because they incentivize people attacking somebody that doesn't have the Sentinel. And Saboteurs being able to say, nope, I'm going to hit who I want, when I want. I think it just gives you so much more power to control the board state. And so Ketsu, one of our few Saboteurs, but also has a cool ability. I like her a lot in this deck. Oh, Luke Skywalker, you still with me? I love this card. I think this is one of the primary reasons that I ran this with green. So Luke, you either pay 2 and he is a 3/2 on the ground. Not very exciting. The cool part about Luke, you pay 3 for him as a pilot. It's one of the few cards where it costs more to pilot him than to play him as a unit. I mean, I think Astromech pilot too, but in most cases it's cheaper to play guys as pilots. Play 3, play Luke as a pilot. If this upgrade would be defeated, you may instead move him to the ground arena as a unit and exhaust him, and he adds +3/+2 to the unit that he is on. Obviously, with Finn, this is extra good. You stick Luke on a cheap ship, you attack with it, and you defeat Luke to get a shield on the ship, and then Luke comes back exhausted on the ground, ready to go. I think he is so good. I didn't use him for any of his traits on here, but he is also Force and Rebel, so you could reenact the scene from Empire Strikes Back by sticking a lightsaber on him, and it would still get all those buffs that Luke gets from any other Luke gets from a lightsaber, which I think is very cool, and kind of want to build around that at some point too. Paige Tico dropping the hammer. So Paige is either a 3/2 for 2 that doesn't do anything else, or for 2 you can play her as a pilot. Attached unit gains on attack, give an experience token to that unit, then deal 1 damage to it, and she adds +2/+2. This is great. We're getting free experience, albeit at the cost of damage. But the cool thing about that is that once we get one experience on there, well, we can just put a shield on by defeating that first experience. And then our subsequent attack will put another experience on there and then ping the shield off, which is a little bit silly, but that's JankTech, baby. Also, the cool thing about Paige is that you can hit with her for a few times, get that experience on there, get that unit more powerful, and then we can just defeat Paige. And if your unit doesn't die from losing those extra 2 health, then they're still going to be swinging for a good amount. So again, another good card to defeat with Finn to protect something once it's been upgraded and damaged. Privateer Crew. It's a 2/2 for 2. Smuggle it for 5. And when you play it using Smuggle, give 3 experience tokens to this unit. So this thing essentially is a 5/5 or a 4/4 with a shield, if you let Finn have his way, giving you the options to smuggle. Again, as I've said in one of my other videos, smuggling is great for flexibility in Twin Suns, helping you to play what you need when you need it. I think this card works so good for Finn, especially because it comes out around the time when your leaders are going to be out. So all of a sudden you'll get a lot of beef at the table ready to go. We got Sabine Wren, Explosive Artist. Classic card. Since we are running all 3 of the colors in this deck, other than heroism, of course, since we're running so many different colors in pretty even amounts, it works well to use Sabine's ability. While there are at least 3 aspects among other friendly units, this unit can't be attacked unless she gains Sentinel. On attack, you may deal 1 damage to the defender or to a base. She is a Spectre. That will be important later on too. Not super important, but still, we'll get there. I have to throw in a pause. Real brief, I'll be right back, y'all. All right, like it never happened. So we were just talking about Sabine Wren. I think she's very cool. She's just a good cheap unit that does a lot of work, no matter what deck she is in. And the fact that she's probably not going to be attackable makes her extra good. Cassian Andor. Classic set 2 Cassian. He's a 3/5 that you can pay either for 3 and have him come in like normal, or you can smuggle him in at 5 and have him come in ready. Love Cassian. He is just a solid, gets the job done. He's not super flashy, but he's got a big butt. And I'm just going to laugh about butts every time. I guess that's where we are now. And he's just going to absorb a lot of damage and just do a lot of work for you. Love Cassian. I think he is a solid include in pretty much every hero deck that has red in it. Cloud City Wingguard. It's another one of those not so flashy cards, but it is a cheap Sentinel, 2/4, gums up the works. Great. Echo Base Defender, another classic. This one's a 4/3 Sentinel for 3. Nobody wants to attack this. This thing is like, it does so much damage on turn 2 that if you play this, someone else is getting attacked, not you. Okay, L337, the new L3. I think she is so cool. So she is a 3/3. You can play her as a pilot to add +3/+3 to something, but her neat ability, if this unit would be defeated, you may instead attach her as an upgrade to a friendly vehicle unit without a pilot on it. So L3 is basically you attack with her into something. L3 says, oh no, I'm going to die, but I'm going to hitch a ride on this ship instead. Get out of my seat. I love this about her. Again, it's about putting our units to work and getting the maximum amount out of them. This is one of those where we've kind of got the same philosophy as Poe, where L3 does something similar on the ground. We can swing her into something big, take it out, and then she comes back as a pilot. If that ship's ready, you can attack with it again, do an extra 3 damage. I think that's very cool. Tech, Source of Insight. We gotta have Tech. Come on. He's a 2/5 with a big butt that gives everything smuggle. It's just so good in Twin Suns. This deck particularly feels good because we have a lot of low-cost units and we want to be able to play them whenever we want. So it's not going to hurt too bad to have to pay 2 extra to bring something out with smuggle with Tech. Love him. I think that Tech is going to continue to see play in pretty much any hero deck, and probably honestly like villain decks too. I think tech is so powerful in this format that running him out of aspect, playing him for 5 still feels good. We got the village protectors. You might be seeing a theme here. We've got a lot of little sentinels on the ground. We are just gumming up the works. We want to get sentinels out so we can have Bail Organa, we can have Maz do their thing, get lots of experience all over the board, so we can have Finn handing out shields left and right, and Village Protectors helps us do that by de-incentivizing people attacking us and not letting people get to our other units. Speaking of Sentinels, Perimeter ATRT 3/5 Sentinel. This one's a vehicle, so stick Poe on this, and it's a 5/6 Sentinel. Bleh. This is especially good because this will generally be ready on the 5 resource turn. So if you stick Poe on there the turn before, attack with it and take out something big, even if Poe dies, then you can deploy him as a leader and attack with him again. It is so cool the amount of damage that you can just hand out with this deck. I absolutely love it. Of course, we got to have Poe Dameron, one hell of a pilot. The cool thing about Poe, so you can play him as a 3/3 on the ground. When played as a unit, create an X-Wing token, which is a 2/2 space unit. You may attach this unit as an upgrade to a friendly vehicle unit without a pilot on it. A lot of times, if there's nothing else, then Poe can just fly off in that X-Wing token. But if you have a ship without a pilot on it, Poe can jump into that too. He doesn't have to jump into the X-Wing. You get so much flexibility with this unit. And if you're killing your pilots to get shields, then let's say we used our Poe leader on a ship, swung with it, did some damage, used Finn to kill Poe to get a shield. We can stick this Poe onto that ship by playing him for 4 on the ground and then hopping into that ship and becoming a +2/+3 pilot and giving us an X-Wing for one of our other cheap pilots to get onto. I think this is so cool. I love how much you get out of these different pilot units. Rose Tico, dedicated to the cause. She is a 2/6 that comes in with a shield. On attack, you may defeat a shield token on a friendly unit. If you do, give 2 experience tokens to that unit. You gotta put Rose in a deck with Finn. They work so well together. Oh my gosh, it's like they thought about the theme. So Rose, in a lot of ways, if she doesn't get messed with, can be thought of as a 4/8. If she can get a shield and defeat it, that's ridiculous. That is so good. And being that defeating 1 shield gives you 2 experience, there's a very favorable exchange rate with using Finn to convert 1 experience into 1 shield with her, as long as nobody messes with her, and hopefully they don't, because you're going to have all these other cheap sentinels. Then Rose can get real big and beefy and out of control. Oh my gosh, I love Rose in this deck. I think she is just so good. Chewbacca, Faithful First Mate, the one I think of as VO5 Chewie. Look at that lustrous head of Wookiee hair. So you can play him for 5 as a 5/6. This enemy can't be defeated or returned to hand by enemy card abilities. So he's just real hard to kill. This means you can't use stuff like Takedown on him if he's got the requisite amount of HP. You can't use Rival's Fall. You can't use Fell the Dragon. You can't use Power of the Dark Side. You can't use Waylay. All sorts of stuff doesn't kill Chewie. Damage will still kill Chewie. So if somebody open fires at him after he's already taken a couple of damage, he's still going to die. But having this ability is awesome, especially if somebody's running some bounce heavy nonsense cunning deck. Also, you can play Chewie for 3 as a pilot to give whatever unit he's on +3/+3, as well as can't be defeated or returned to hand by enemy card abilities. This is awesome. You're probably not going to want to kill Chewie because, like, honestly, I think anytime Chewie dies, it's like when Mario jumps off of a Yoshi over a pit and you feel a little bad about it. Most of the other pilots before Chewie in this list are kind of expendable. At this point, we start to get into our less expendable units. Yeah, you want to keep Chewie alive. He just turns ships into giant, bothersome messes that are very hard to deal with, and I love that. Occupier Siege Tank. an old card from the first set that they reprinted in this one. I think there's a lot of great occupations, a lot of great opportunities to use the Occupier Siege tank. It's a 5/4 with grit. So every bit of damage that can go onto this makes it stronger. So we stick Poe on there. We do a bunch of damage with it. Kill Poe to get a shield on it. All of a sudden, you're looking at a gritted up tank that's going to do a ton of damage and be multiple turns to stop unless, well, there's some cards that you can play to get through that. But point being, a shield makes it harder to deal with just taking it out all at once. I think the ability to hand out a lot of damage with this tank is super cool, and that's why it is in here. Of course, we got Poe. We have to use the special legendary Poe. Excuse me, y'all, just one sec. Okay, and I am back. If y'all are wondering what the deal is with the pauses, it's because I cleaned my house today. And I think the dust is still swirling around a little bit. So I'm just trying to not sneeze on camera for everyone. Like, that's just gross. Anyway, we're looking at the Poe Legendary from Shadows of the Galaxy. This card is so good. Like, of course we got to put Poe in here. Even if we're not running ECL, which, oh, geez. ECL Poe is just one of the worst things to have to deal with. I think Poe in Jump to Lightspeed got even better. So he's a 6/6. Bring him out for 5. That's already good. But on attack, discard up to 3 cards from your hand. For each card discarded this way, choose a different option. Deal 2 damage to a unit or base. Defeat an upgrade. An opponent discards a card from their hand. He's so good. He is so multi-purpose. He can kill a freaking pilot leader just by discarding a card. It's amazing. Poe is so good. Poe needs to go. I mean, I think if you're running Hero Red, at this point, you're going to stick Poe in your deck. He's not in the budget version, obviously. He's an expensive card. I got lucky and I pulled a couple out of packs. Okay, Cargo Juggernaut for 6. It's a 4/6 shielded. When played, if you control another blue unit, another vigilance unit, heal 4 damage from your base. Well, likely Finn is still going to be out there when you play the Cargo Juggernaut, so it's pretty likely that you will be able to heal some damage from your base. Also, you stick Poe on this, you're looking at a 6/7 with a shield on it already. That is gross. I love the Cargo Juggernaut. I feel like it was one of those cards that came out in the first set, and it's like, okay, you know, maybe in limited formats, but I think this thing deserves some time in everything. I think it's a good card because my definition of a good card is when somebody plays it and you're just like, oh my God, how am I going to deal with that? And I've definitely had that reaction to Cargo Juggernaut. Gorilla Attack Pod. What can I say about Gorilla Attack Pod? It is such an impactful card. It's a 4/6 with grit. When played, if a base has 15 or more damage on it, ready this unit. This is Twin Suns. Anytime it's asking for if a base has that amount of damage, we've got 4 people's bases to pick from. If you play your cards right at the 6 resource step and beyond, this is likely going to come in ready. I think it's advantageous to wait until you have 7 resources so you can stick Poe on there immediately. Oh my gosh. I love this card. It can do so much damage. Heck yeah. Rogue Squadron Skirmisher. It's a 4/6 with ambush, and when played, return a unit that costs 2 or less from your discard pile to your hand. What are those units, you might ask? Well, those are all those pilots that we decided to kill earlier to get shields on things. Astromech pilot, of course, these ones as well. Nien Num, Academy graduate, Frisk, Hera. Luke is 2, so you can bring Luke back because as a unit, he is a 2 cost. This card only cares about units with that cost in the upper left corner. Paige. We have so many options of cheap things that we can get out when we play the Rogue Squadron Skirmisher. And also, it's a vehicle. We can always stick a pilot on it if we want to. I think this is one that gives you a lot of good flexibility at the stage in the game that you're playing this. You're going to have good things to fish out of the discards and power up your Finn kills upgrades to give shields engine. War Juggernaut. How could you not play this in Twin Suns? It's pilotable because it's a vehicle. It's for 6. It's a 3/7. It gets +1/+0 for each damaged unit, which can include itself. And when played, deal 1 damage to each of any number of units. That is just boom, 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 boom. TIE Fighter tokens die. I think the War Juggernaut is so cool and impactful. And of course, it can get big fast when you're playing with more than 2 people. Oh my gosh, it gets big enough when you're playing with 2 people. This is something I want to see in a Mace Windu deck later, especially because it comes out the turn before Mace deploys. But one thing at a time. War Juggernaut in this deck, a lot of fun. And if you are able to give it shield, I think it becomes even more ridiculous to have to deal with it. And then last but not least on the ground, we got Chewbacca Pikesbane. It's a big old 4/10 Wookiee with grit. When played, you may defeat a unit with 5 or less remaining HP. It's got that takedown effect built right into it. And you can smuggle him in for 9. And because we're running red, it does just cost 9. Love this Chewie. He is such a good endgame closer. It's definitely worth it to keep it in your resources just in case you need it. Love the smuggle on him. He was real cheap last I checked for it, so he's staying in all versions of this deck. Okay, we got space units. We need those space units because we are going to be hopping Poe all around everywhere. We have lots of cheapies. You can see over here on the list that these are basically just tons of 2s and 3s and 2s and 3s. Anakin's Interceptor, where the fun begins. It's a 2/3. While your base has 15 or more damage on it, this unit gets +2/+0. That's great. If our base has that threshold amount of damage on it, we stick Poe on this. That means that is a 4/3 that gets +2/+1. So we're looking at swinging for 6 with a 2-cost unit. That's phenomenal. That is so good. I think this is a better one to save for later on in the game. I mean, of course, you're going to play it early on if you don't have any better plans. But as far as like a mid to late game card, I think Anakin's Interceptor is tremendously valuable. We're running Poe. You got to have Poe's ship. Come on. The black one. It's a 2/3. While it's upgraded, it's a 3/3. If you control Poe Dameron on attack, you may deal 1 damage to a unit. So we are always going to have that because Poe is our leader. If only all the different Poes would stack. But still, the ability to ping something and have this get better when it's upgraded and stick Poe on it. Oh my gosh. The ship hits for 5 on turn 2 if you stick Poe on it. Love it. And let's not forget, it gets buffed even if you use Poe to swing with this and then kill him to put a shield on it. It's still upgraded. It still gets +1/+0, which is awesome. Green Squadron A-Wing, the classic. It's still 1/3, raid 2, such a solid ship. Great first turn play. You never feel bad about playing Green Squadron A-Wing in the beginning of the game. Gray Squadron Y-Wing. We're going to have a lot of squadrons here. I love this. I continue to run these in decks. I just think it is so wonderful. For 2, it is a 1/3 on attack. An opponent chooses a unit or base they control. You may deal 2 damage to it. So this is Twin Suns. You can point to any of these opponents of yours. You don't have to choose the one that you're attacking. Although distributing the damage from this is a real good way to lose friends at the table very quickly. So I would think about how you're dividing that all up. Red Squadron Y-Wing, it's a 1/3 on attack. Deal 3 indirect damage to the defending player. So it's kind of similar, although it focuses its efforts a little bit more than the Gray Squadron does. I really like these ships. I think putting pilots on them makes them so much better. And the fact that you can't really control as well where the damage goes means you get more damage. So if you attack somebody with no units, well, if you have Poe on this, you're doing 3 from the ship attack and 3 from the indirect. I think that's pretty good for a 2-cost unit and paying 1 to stick a pilot on it. Resistance X-Wing, you gotta have the Resistance X-Wing with Poe. It's a 2/2. While it has a pilot on it, it gets +1/+1. So when you have Poe at +2/+1, it's really +3/+2, making it a 5/4 for 2. So good. So good. Restored Arc 170, another classic first set ship, a 2/3 with Restore 1. We're going to be taking damage. It's inevitable. Having a little bit of restore is nice, and people want to kill your restore units because nobody likes seeing that number on someone else's base go down instead of up. Again, though, these are all solid things to put Poe on, increase the amount of damage that they can do, because normally these ships don't do a whole lot. That's why they are so cheap, but having Poe really gives us a lot more options and flexibility and say, no, we're going to get a lot out of this ship. We're going to squeeze every little bit that we can. And then once we use it up with Poe, then we're going to use Finn to put a shield on it, keep it alive, make it hard for people to kill our stuff. Rickety Quad Jumper. I love the Rickety Quad Jumper with Finn so much. It's a 1/3. On attack, you may reveal the top card of your deck. If it's not a unit, give an experience token to another unit. I am absolutely notorious for whiffing with the Rickety Quad Jumper unless I'm playing with Yoda, who of course lets you jank around the top card of your deck. I still think it's worth including in here because even when it fires, even if it fires some of the time, well, that's a free experience. All you had to do was attack with the thing that you were already going to attack with. Also, you put Poe on here. It's a 3/4. That's not bad, you know. I think it's better than it was just ordinarily. Supporting ETA-2. This is one of those new ships. It's a 2/2. On attack, you may give a ground unit +2/+0 for this phase. This is great. We have a lot of ground units. You play this with Maz on the ground, that is going to make her absolutely a behemoth, a juggernaut. You're sprinkling experience around with Bale. Maybe you put Poe on a ground vehicle. This thing is going to be great for making it even better. Stick a pilot on here. That damage is going to add up real quick. It's going to be super good. Okay, Blue Leader, Scarif Air Support. Love Blue Leader. So, 3/3 for 3 with Ambush. When played, you may pay 2. If you do, move this unit to the ground arena and give 2 experience tokens to it, and it now becomes a ground unit. This is cool. So it gives 2 experience, meaning we can use it with Finn kind of out of the box to protect it a little bit. Because Ambush is also a when played ability, you choose when you want to do those 2 things. So you can, in theory, ambush something on the ground with this as long as you can pay for it. Having a ship that's capable of going to the ground is very helpful in this deck in particular because we have the ability to stick a pilot on something pretty much every single turn and buff it. And putting Poe on this when it's on the ground means it is a, let's see, that's a 5/5. That is a 7/6. That's awesome. Love the Blue Leader. I love that it gives you so much flexibility. Again, we already have flexibility because of our pilots, so this is a very tactical deck. We can react to stuff that other people do. We can lane dodge. If we're short in one arena, then we say, oh, we need more space units. I'll play Blue Leader in space. It's going to be great. Love this card. Concord Dawn Interceptors. Speaking of cards that are great for this deck, this is a 1/4 with Sentinel, and it turns into a 3/4 when defending. You stick Poe on it, it turns into a 3/5 normally or a 5/5 while defending. I think that's awesome. Poe's going to make stuff big. Poe's going to turn this into a Sentinel that nobody wants to mess with, and you can play other ships. We're doing our little pilot tricks, cycling Poe out on other things. If you play an upgrade on this one, maybe a pilot that you're not going to kill immediately, or you give this thing a shield. There's so many ways of making this Sentinel enable all of your other jankery with your other more powerful aggressive units. Love the Concord Dawn Interceptors in this deck. Of course, you know, disabling Fangfighter. We love disabling Fangfighter. I think everyone running red is running this at this point in JTL. 3/2 in space. When played, you may defeat an upgrade. Yes, that's a leader. That's a pilot. Which in this deck is maybe advantageous. If you think something that Poe is on is going to die before you can kill it with Finn, then maybe you just play this so you can kill your Poe, so you can deploy him as an epic action on the ground. It gives you a little bit more flexibility. But honestly, I'd be surprised if I use this for anything other than killing somebody's really problematic pilots, except for Chewbacca. Remember, we can't kill VO5 Chewie with that because it says defeat and upgrade. So this is one of the things that's exempt from the Fang Fighters text, which, we got to watch out for that if someone has a Chewie. So don't get your hopes up and think that you can kill him. You can't. Millennium Falcon, get out and push the newest Falcon. Well, I mean, there's a couple new Falcons in the new set, but one of them, it's a 3/4. You may play or deploy one additional pilot on this unit. It gets +1/+0 for each pilot on it. We put Poe on this and another pilot. Are you kidding me? And then we can kill Poe, put a shield on there, keep the other pilot on there, play Poe on there again. Like, there's so many possibilities with the Falcon. I love this card. In a pilot-heavy deck, you absolutely want the Falcon. So good. Especially because some of our pilots are kind of transient. So if we're in a situation where we have L3 out, maybe we swing with the Falcon with Poe on it, kill him to get a shield, then run L3 into something to kill that, to stick her onto the Falcon, and then we could put Poe back onto the Falcon before attacking with it the next round. It's just ludicrous. It's just, there's so many great fun strategies that you can do with the ship. It gets big so fast. And that's why we need the support of things like the Concord Dawn Interceptors to keep people from messing with it. Omicron Strikecraft, another keep people from messing with our stuff. It's just a 2/3 Sentinel in space for 3. It's nothing special, but even if our Sentinel takes one attack and dies, that is an attack that could have gone to base, or it could have gone to one of our ships that we need to do damage to someone else's base. So I'm fine paying 3 for the Omicron Strikecraft if it's going to die. And besides, we can always stick Poe on it to make it into a 4/4, which is, not nothing. Got the Phantom 2. It is a Spectre. It's got grit. It's a 3/3. And it's got that cool pay 1. If this card is a unit, attach it as an upgrade to the Ghost, which just docks it on there, gives the Ghost +3/+3 and gains grit. Spoiler alert, I'm running the Ghost in this deck, which is part of the reason I wanted to have all of those, which is why there's some Spectres in here. I think this is it's an okay ship as a 3/3 for 3 with grit. Obviously with Poe on it, it's a 5/4 with grit, so it's a little bit better. I think it's very cool to have the Ghost out and then have the flexibility to say, okay, I know I can play the Phantom 2 on the Ghost in a couple of turns, so maybe we can get in a shot or two with it, get a little damage on there, and then boink, we are going to heal that damage and make the Ghost absolutely ridiculously big. Red 5, running the Trench. It's a 3/4. On attack, you may deal 2 damage to a damaged unit. With Poe on there, it is a 5/5. 2 damage to a damaged unit. There's going to be a lot of damaged units. This is Twin Suns. You can attack one person and shoot somebody else's damaged unit. It's awesome. Again, it's the kind of thing like with the Gray Squadron Y-Wing that's not going to win you any popularity contests at the table, but I think it's still a real good do lots of stuff at once kind of card. Great action economy. That's what they say. Sabine's Masterpiece, crazy colorful. It is 3/3 for 3, and it's a Spectre with a very cool on attack. If you control a vigilance unit, heal 2 damage from a base, anyone's base, bargaining tool. A command unit, give an experience token to a unit, any unit, even this one. Just hand them out like candy. Aggression unit, deal 1 damage to a unit or a base. Again, anyone's. This thing can put its stuff anywhere. You can heal. And since we're running these 3 colors, we have a lot of options as to what this is going to be able to do depending on what's out. And the fact that it is Spectre means that it's going to benefit from our Ghost if we're able to get that out later. It means that we can stick Poe on it to do extra stuff. I just think this card is so cool in this deck. And I'm sure that people are going to be running Sabine's Masterpiece in like everything at this point. Red Leader, form up. It's a 3/4. This unit costs 1 less to play for each friendly pilot, unit, and upgrade. That is pilots on the ground, just as dudes running around. That is pilot upgrades. That is Poe once you stuck him onto a ship. This thing being able to get undercosted is so cool. And then, when a pilot upgrade attaches to this unit, create an X-Wing token. It just makes more ships. So, like, if you, let's say you had 6 resources. You had Red Leader and Poe Dameron, one hell of a pilot, in your hand. You could, in theory, let's say you had 2 pilots deployed already. You had the Poe Leader and Nien Nunb. For 2, you could play... Where'd you go, buddy? For 2, you could play Red Leader, and then you could play the Poe as a unit to put him immediately onto Red Leader, make an X-Wing, and also make another X-Wing from his ability. I think for 6 resources, that's pretty good. Having more ships means more flexibility for putting more pilots on them, which I just, that's kind of the theme of this deck. We're just piloting. It's going to be awesome. Survivor's Gauntlet. This is one of those makes rules lawyers really start rules lawyering with this set. It's a 4/6. When played and on attack, you may attach an upgrade on a unit to another eligible unit controlled by the same player. Does this mean that you can shuffle your Poe around? I think it does. And even if it doesn't, it means you can definitely shuffle your other pilots around. It means you can put shields on things that were on other things. You can put experience around on other things. It means, it means when the cat is being good, that we don't need to worry about that. It means there's so much flexibility that this gives you in order to do things with some pilots. And if you need a shield on something, then you use the Survivor's Gauntlet to get an upgrade onto another thing to do what you need to do when you need to do it. The cat was making that into some crazy gymnastics there. Thanks for bearing with me. Tactical Heavy Bomber. Love this. It's a 3/5. On attack, deal indirect damage equal to this unit's power to the defending player. If a base is damaged this way, draw a card. Of course, you're going to stick Poe on this to make it at least 5 damage. Maybe it gets experience from other things. Usually a good response to indirect damage is to say, I'll put it all on the base. Nobody wants to give their opponent card draw. So the Tactical Heavy Bomber gives you an opportunity to get a whole lot of damage on somebody else's units. That because we have so many things that are slightly more expendable or slightly more death-proof because of all the shields we're going to be giving them, then we can crash this into something else. We can take out a lot of stuff on the board with minimal casualties to ourselves, or at least whittle away at some things so that they are easy pickings for the enemy. Love it. We gotta have the Ghost in here, right? The new Ghost, 5/6. It's a Spectre. Each other friendly Spectre unit gains this unit's keywords while this unit is upgraded, i.e. when Poe is on it, then it gains Sentinel. If we stick the Phantom 2 on there, it will get Grit. And if we have any other Spectre out, if we have Sabine, if we have Sabine's cool ship, then that's just more good stuff that those are also going to get. Again, there's not a ton of Spectres, but if you can play your cards right and get them to work with each other at the right time, this is just ridiculous. And of course, a 5-cost potential 7/7 Sentinel is nothing to sneeze at either. U-Wing Lander. I think this is like the perfect Finn Poe card. So for 5, it's a 2/2 that comes into play with 3 experience tokens on it, much like those smuggler buddies that we had earlier. Where are you, smuggler buddies? The privateer crew. However, this has an extra cool ability built into it as well. When this completes an attack and survives, you may attach an upgrade on this unit to another eligible friendly vehicle unit. You want to stick Poe on this so bad because this can immediately push Poe onto something else, without you having to use his ability. So you can attack again on another ship. So then you can use Poe's ability to hop him off of that ship to another ship. And then finally give the last ship a shield once you kill Poe after swinging with him. It's so cool. I love that you can turn your experience tokens into shields with Finn and then attack with the U-Wing lander and then give something else a shield. That's so good. There's just so many ways of using this in this deck, whether you're passing around pilots, experience, shields. Such a cool card. I'm excited to see how it plays out in some games. All right, we got the Radis, Holdo's Final Command. It is an 8/6 while you control another resistance card. Unit upgrader leader, this gains Sentinel. Poe is resistance, so this is a Sentinel. When defeated, deal damage equal to this unit's power to an enemy unit. Well, late game, this is likely going to die because, like I said earlier, Poe being resistance is going to make this always a Sentinel. And if we can manage to stick him on there, then that is 10 damage that we can shoot off to something else. So yeah, it's going to really de-incentivize people to swing at us in the very last part of the game. And then lastly, we've got the Tantive VVVV. You know, the ship from the first Star Wars movie that gets like swallowed up by the Star Destroyer. You know the one I mean, with the Death Star plans on it. Anyway, it's a 5/7 Sentinel. When played, create an X-Wing. It's not super flashy, but it does give you another ship when it comes out, which is just another thing for Poe to hop onto and do some more Poe damage. Okay, we got 21 cool, fun events in this deck. And of course, we are going to run salvage. How could we not run salvage? I mean, obviously, we've got Finn on the freaking card running towards the Falcon, which we can reenact on the game table while we're playing this. Play a vehicle unit from your discard pile, paying its cost, then deal 1 damage to it. This is great. We're going to hopefully be shielding that unit anyway, so 1 damage should hopefully be fine in the whole scheme of things. Just letting us reuse something because we're probably going to lose some of our vehicles along the way. Love this card. Confiscate, defeat, and upgrade. Of course, this is in here. We just need to kill a leader. We need to kill a Darksaber. We need to kill anything that's not the the stupid VO5 Chewbacca. Covert strength, heal 2 damage from a unit and give an experience token to it. Again, feeds Finn. Or we can smuggle this in for 3, so it gives you some flexibility with potentially playing this late game. If you're like, oh my gosh, this thing that I need to stay alive is going to die, then you can smuggle this in and heal it. Dogfight, attack with the unit. Even if it's exhausted, that unit can't attack bases for this attack. This is really good on your 5 resource turn if you need to take something out and do enough damage with whatever Poe is on to say, I'm okay if Poe dies and we don't get a shield because it means taking something big out and we can deploy him on the ground for this phase. I think Dogfight is such a good, you thought I was all done, but it turns out I actually wasn't, to take out some big unit that someone was thinking they were going to be free and clear to attack with next round. Love it. Fight fire with fire. Choose a friendly unit and an enemy unit in the same arena. If you do, deal 3 damage to each of them. So this you can use either for killing your own Poe sorts of tricks, or after you've killed Poe to give a shield to something, well then this shield can just absorb the 3 damage, and whatever you need to have damaged can get damaged with no consequences to you. Heroic Sacrifice, always useful for a Poe deck. Draw a card, then attack with a unit. For this attack, it gets +2/+0 and gains when this unit deals combat damage, defeat it. So a lot of times with Poe, you want him to die just so you can put him on something else. But as I've said a bunch of times, it's especially vital on the turn. You need him on the ground as a unit because he just comes out ready and swings for 6. He comes out ready and swings for 4. So anything that lets you just kill him is super useful. And it gives you an extra card, and it lets you swing for a little bit more damage. This card does it all for this deck. I love it. Recruit. We need tutors. We're playing 80 cards. Search the top 5 cards of your deck for a unit, reveal it, and draw it. Boom, boom, boom. It gets us Gets us ships. It gets us pilots that we might play as pilots. We might play as units. It's just so versatile with what we've got. Recruit is so good in this deck. Smuggler's Aid. I am just, the more I play Twin Suns, the more I think Smuggler's Aid is so vital in that last round where one person goes out and everyone else is frantically doing math. And if you're like me, you're not doing as much math as you should be. So Smuggler's Aid really is a big help, because then you're like, well, guess what? I resourced this card way back in the beginning of the game, and now I heal 3 damage from my base, and now I'm going to win after taking the blast. I think this is such a good end of game card in Twin Suns. Love it. Tandem Assault. Attack with a space unit. If you do attack with a ground unit, and that ground unit gets +2/+0 for this attack. This is great because we have a good mixture of space and ground in this deck. And being that we're going to be doing things on both arenas, we want a card like this that lets us attack with multiple things and get a buff on one of them. This is great. This does so many things all with one card. They hate that ship. An opponent creates 2 TIE Fighter tokens and readies them, then play a vehicle unit from your hand. It costs 3 less. So you're essentially getting a 2 discount, which is really good because a lot of times you are spending extra resources on moving Poe around. The cool thing about this is you can pick anyone. You can pick any of your opponents. This is another good bargaining chip. Like, hey, if you don't attack me, I'll give you the TIE Fighters. Just leave my ship alone. Or we need somebody to deal with this awful thing on this side of the board. If I give you the TIE Fighters, are you going to help me with that? So I really like this card a lot in this format. Unexpected Escape. Exhaust a unit. You may rescue a captured card guarded by that unit. Exhausting a unit is just great on its own, but if you add in the ability to rescue a captured card, I think it becomes even better. Like I've said in other videos, capture is really good in Twin Suns because it doesn't matter that it's not permanent removal, because oftentimes the other people on the table will have a vested interest in that unit not coming back into play. So it provides further negotiation, political fodder, having cards captured. This gets right through that. It's great. Eject. I love this card so much. Detach a pilot upgrade, move it to the ground arena as a unit, and exhaust it. Draw a card. Yes, this can get us our Poe as a leader without using his epic action. That is so cool. Also, though, that can detach pilot leaders that someone else deployed if we think that we can't deal with them as a big space unit. This can let us move around our other stuff. Like, we could get L3 back onto the ground if we needed to, so we could just keep doing her stuff. This is such a cool card with the deck with all these pilots in it. I think it's going to be really fun figuring out where the right lines of play are with using it. Lightspeed Assault. I love this card so much. One of my favorite cards from Jump to Lightspeed. Defeat a friendly space unit and deal damage equal to its power to an enemy space unit. If you do, deal indirect damage equal to the enemy unit's power to its controller. This means somebody has a gigantic Vader's on a clone squadron ship with 6 TIE Fighters and the thing's absolutely gigantic. Well, you blow up whatever Poe is on, and then Vader has to deal with that 13 indirect damage. I think it is wonderful. Prepare for takeoff. Just lets you search for vehicles. We will need vehicles. We will need so many vehicles in this deck. And because once people are seeing that this deck revolves around playing pilots, our vehicles are going to be quite endangered. So having more in there is always good. And this gets you 2 cards. So using 1 card to draw 2, great deal in this game. Stay on target. This is such a Poe card. Attack with a vehicle unit. For this attack, it gets +2/+0 and gains when this unit deals damage to a base. Draw a card. I think this is such a good card for Poe because that means that whatever vehicle you're on is essentially attacking for +4 and getting you a card to replace this one. So good. Anything that lets you go through your deck more, always good in Twin Suns. You're all clear, kid. I've been threatening people now for a while since they spoiled this card that I will play this and make the stupid Han Solo face at them. It's going to happen. Trust me, y'all are getting the face. Defeat an enemy space unit with 3 or less remaining HP. If you do and an opponent controls no space units, you may give an experience token to a unit. So there's a lot happening with this card here. So we get to kill something that's small, which is great. That could be a swarming vulture droid, which would be really awesome because it would debuff any other swarming vulture droids. It could be something that doesn't have a pilot on it yet. The whole an opponent controls no space units means out of the 3 other people at the table, maybe one of them is not going to have space units by the time this card is done resolving. So the chances of you getting an experience are pretty good, which means you're going to be smiling like Mr. Solo here on this picture. Disruptive Burst. Give each enemy unit -1/-1 for this phase, or also suck it, Vader, because all your ties are dead. I think this is a cool card in this deck because it softens up vehicles in case we want to crash Poe into them and make it a little bit easier for us to take everything down a few notches and use our slightly upgraded ships to kill them. And also, since it's each enemy unit, that is all of everybody's stuff, so everyone else at the table is going to get to enjoy that for a bit. Extra fun if you're combining that with red, where are you? With red 5, because that makes it easier for red 5 to kill something. It's awesome with any of the Y-wings putting damage onto stuff. It's great with the tactical heavy bomber. Anything that's throwing indirect damage around, it's like this is going to kill X-wing tokens in one shot with indirect damage now. It's awesome. Okay, what have we got left over here? We've got Face Off. This is an interesting one in this format. If no player has taken the initiative this phase, you may ready an enemy unit. Maybe somebody's got a droid trooper, somebody's got a TIE fighter. If you do, ready a friendly unit in the same arena. Likely it's going to be Poe, or, it's going to be a ship that has Poe on it, or a ship that has another pilot on it. So you can really give somebody else very little and get a lot for you. Since the whole idea of trying to use Poe as many times per turn in this deck is what it is, getting to ready the ship that has Poe on it and use him again is just so good. Take Captive. It's just a little bit of removal. Friendly unit captures an enemy non-leader unit in the same arena. The cool thing about this deck is that we have so many pilots that can either be played to the ground or to space. So if there is a real big, awful problem unit, well, then maybe it's worth it just to play a little wimp to the ground so that we can capture somebody else's crate dragon with Take Captive. They'll never see it coming. Bombing Run. This is great. Choose an arena, ground or space, deal 3 damage to each unit in that arena. Love Bombing Run. Again, it'll soften things up for Poe. It'll help Poe die if he needs to die. If we have a bunch of shields on stuff, it's just going to ping off our shields and nuke everyone else's board. Bombing Run is great. It just puts so much damage on stuff. And because of our ability to lane dodge if we need to, maybe we just play all of our stuff on the ground for a little bit, play Bombing Run, do a whole lot of damage to everyone else's ships, and then we focus on space later on in the game. Just a very cool card. Bravado. If you've defeated an enemy unit this phase, this event costs 2 less to play, so it can cost either 5 or 3. Ready a unit. Again, we're going to try to ready whatever has Poe on it so we can get even more juice out of the Poe squeeze. Love this card in Twin Suns because it's going to be a way easier to find some unit to kill from some opponent, period, rather than just, oh, I only have one opponent. Maybe Bravado is not going to work. And we've got a few upgrades, like actual factual, honest to goodness upgrades. So we've got the holdout blaster attached to a non-vehicle unit. It could be a pilot that's not on a ship. When played, you may have attached unit deal 1 damage to a ground unit and gives them +1/+0. This is the perfect kind of upgrade to get a little use out of and then defeat to give something a shield. We're not going to feel bad about throwing this holdout blaster away in order for Finn to use his ability to make something more survivable. Infiltrator skill. Attached unit gains Saboteur. and +1/+1. Same story. If we can just get in there and do a little bit of damage, then if there comes a time when we don't need the Saboteur as much, we can get rid of this. But again, Saboteur is very useful in Twin Suns, so this might be worth holding on to. Other cool thing to note, you can put this on any kind of unit. It doesn't have to be a vehicle or a non-vehicle. It's just whatever unit you want. Feels good. The Death Star plans. Okay, so there's a bunch of Sentinels in this deck, especially in the ground. And I love the idea of putting the Death Star plans on something that is protected by a Sentinel and getting discounts. So what does this card do? It's a 2-cost. When attached unit is attacked, the attacking player takes control of this upgrade and attaches it to a unit they control. Attached unit gains. The first unit you play each round costs 2 less resources. It feels real good to get discounts on stuff, but it feels bad when your unit gets attacked and steals those Death Star plans away from you. I think they captured the theme so perfect with this card. I'm so glad that I pulled one of these recently. As long as we put it on something that's not going to get attacked, or conversely, we stick it on an enemy unit and have everyone else gang up on that unit. And then the interesting thing is, if we have it on our own unit, we can just defeat it with Poe. We can defeat it with Finn later on, which I think is just wonderful. The other interesting thing is, if we play this on an enemy unit from the get-go, we still control this. It doesn't switch control until that unit gets attacked. So in theory, we could still use Finn's ability to defeat a friendly upgrade on a unit while we're still the controller of it. It would give a shield token to that unit, but it would just make for some real interesting, whacked out board states that, like, I think causing chaos is sometimes the most fun in this format. So this is a chaos card, but it still can make it way easier for you to get stuff out. If you have Death Star plans and they hate that ship, you can get a ship out for real cheap if it's the first thing that you play that round. Very cool card. It's not in the budget version. I'm not sure how much exactly it costs yet, but I'm like, well, it's a legendary with a really neat ability, so we'll see. Entrenched, gotta have Entrenched. Stick it on something, go to town on everyone else's units, and then when you want to attack bases again, just get rid of it for a shield. Or if you're lane dodging, just stick it in the arena that you're not paying attention to and let everyone else deal with it. Love this card. It's really hard to lose with Entrenched. It's been a great card since it came out, and it continues to be a great card. Inspiring Mentor. Attached to a non-vehicle unit. Attached unit gains on attack or when defeated. Give an experience token to another friendly unit, and it gives it +1/+1. This is such an awesome card in a Finn deck because, again, you are handing out experience all over the place, and then you can convert those into shields to make your stuff more survivable. It does hurt that you can't put it on vehicles. I guess vehicles can't be mentors, but we can play pilots to the ground. We can protect them with our many Sentinels, and then we can just start roiding things up with Inspiring Mentor. Love this card. And then last but not least, Legal Authority. Attached to a friendly unit. When played, attached unit captures an enemy non-leader unit with less power than it. And it's +0/+2. Well, guess what, y'all? You stick Poe on something, you've got 2 more power to play with. Then you stick Legal Authority on whatever Poe is on, and then he just captures something. The great thing about that is that you can defeat Legal Authority with Finn to give that unit a shield afterwards, and that other unit will stay captured. This even ignores arenas. It just says less power. I love this card in this deck. It is so good for getting rid of something that's really a problem. Okay, well, that is it for the regular version of this deck. Let's check out the budget version. So, in the cheap lives and deaths of Poe Dameron, the budget version, we took out the Death Star plans, Heroic Sacrifice, because I think it's still a few bucks. The Poe unit, because he's expensive. Tech, again, Tech is expensive. The Legendary Ghost Ship, and they hate that ship. These are all expensive cards that, even if they're not super expensive now, I think that they can be replaced if you're trying to trim your budget a little bit. So what did we use? as our replacements for those? Well, you can see up here is the list right here, but let's go through them one by one. So instead of They Hate That Ship, we've got the Alliance Dispatcher. Honestly, I might figure out a way of putting this guy into the non-budget version. It's a 1-2 for 1 as an action. Exhaust it, play a unit from your hand. It costs 1 less. It doesn't work on pilots, but if you're consistently playing ships like we should be doing in this deck, being able to play them for 1 less gives us another resource that we can use to stick Poe on them. So I think this is a really useful card in this deck. It's not quite as glamorous as They Hate That Ship because it doesn't give you that huge tempo swing and negotiation, but it's still good for getting stuff out consistently. And let's be honest, this guy's going to die real fast, but I still think it's a good discount sort of card to put in there. Let's see. We've got C-3PO in there instead of tech. So here's the thing with this deck. So many cards are either 2 or 3 that using 3PO's ability is going to hit pretty consistently. So 3PO for 2, he's a 1-4. When played and on attack, choose a number, then look at the top card of your deck. If its cost is the chosen number, you may reveal and draw it. So the cool thing about 3PO here is that in a deck where so many of the things have the same cost, this essentially is attack with 3PO and draw a card. Of course, you're not going to hit it all the time, but I think it gives you a lot more potential options. And in terms of a budget replacement for the kind of flexibility that tech can give, I think 3PO does something similar in a way that's not going to break the bank. So we don't have the Poe unit in here. We did put in Kanan Jarrus. I think Kanan is one of my go-to budget sort of cards because he's just really good. He's a 4/5 for 4, which is great stats for the cost. On attack, you may discard 1 card from the defending player's deck for each friendly Spectre unit. Heal 1 damage from your base for each different aspect among the discarded cards. So you're at least going to get 1. Oftentimes, I think you might get even 2 cards out of this. So I think he's pretty good considering there's a few other Spectres milling around. Of course, we took out the Ghost, but, Kanan, even with no other Spectres, is still a real solid include. So speaking of the Ghost, we replaced the Ghost with the, where are you, buddy? Desperado Freighter. So Desperado Freighter, also, it's not flashy, but it's a 5/6 for 5. It's a great thing to stick Poe onto. This becomes a 7/7 for 5 after you spend the 1 to stick Poe on it. It's still a big old ship with a big old butt. And I think, honestly, if you're looking for a budget substitution, you could do a lot worse than the Desperado Freighter. I think it's still something where when it comes down on the table, it's going to be like, oh, that's big. How do we handle it sort of card. Let's see. Okay, we took out Heroic Sacrifice, and instead of Heroic Sacrifice, I put in Outflank. It's just another card that lets us attack with 2 units just to get a little bit more bang for our buck with a single attack. It's not quite the same as Heroic Sacrifice in that it doesn't give us any defeating or card drawing options, but it does let us do a lot all at once. And let's not forget, because this is something I haven't really brought up that much, when Finn deploys to his leader side, his defeat an upgrade to make a shield ability is an on-attack ability. So if you stagger your attacks without flank in the right way, you can use Finn's ability to make something else more survivable, or just attack with something that has, let's say, Poe on it, and then defeat Poe to get a shield all in one action thanks to Outflank. I think the card is pretty good. And then last but not least, we took out the Death Star plans and we put in the old access codes. I know that they are not as glitzy as the Death Star plans, but old access codes, when played, if an opponent controls more units than you, draw a card. It gives you +1/+0. So this can get you some card draw. This can pretty much trigger pretty reliably because there's 3 other people that have differing amounts of units. And it's not one that you're going to feel bad about throwing away because you want to use Finn's ability for something. So yeah, that's going to wrap it up. That is the lives and deaths, or the cheap lives and deaths, of Poe Dameron. What do y'all think? Are you going to run this in Twin Suns? We're probably going to play this deck the next time I record versus my Admiral Trench Dooku deck, where if you are Not sure what that deck is. I will have a link to it because I have already done a video on that one. I'm really excited to playing that and seeing how everything shakes out. So yeah, I think that's going to do it for me. Hope y'all are enjoying the new set as much as I am. Hope y'all are getting a lot of cool decks brewed. I've got some more plans to make more expanded intro decks. I know people have been asking for it. And I think I'm going to consider what can I do as an extreme budget with 80 cards, including jump to light speed, because I think this new stuff is so cool that I don't just want to cram 30 cards into older decks and try to make it work. I think we can still make good beginner-friendly decks for cheap with new cards, just to have all of this new stuff incorporated in here. So many cool things. I'm excited to get them done. Again, thank you so much for watching, liking, and subscribing. And all there is to do is say, let's do this again sometime.